first of all, allow me to commend members of this committee. As you know, the committee is chaired by a former classmate of mine, Honorable Speaker. And it is such bold decisions that make me proud of being a member of this House, that we can look at legislation objectively and say we have issues with this proposed legislation and that we cannot support it. In fact, some of us have taken a position on previous legislation that has been sponsored to this House or originated from the National Assembly, that if a bill is unconstitutional, you should not even entertain the thought of subjecting it to a third reading where you then introduce amendments, because our position in the minority is that you cannot introduce any amendments to breathe life into an unconstitutional bill, and that an unconstitutional bill should be dealt with forthright from the beginning as an unconstitutional bill. So, Honorable Speaker, I see the members of this committee here are people that I would take their position very seriously. I see that Senator Catherine Muma is a member here, Senator Veronica Maina, and of course Andrew Omtata Okoiti, people whose advice on the constitutionality or otherwise of any piece of legislation I take very seriously. Honorable Speaker, there are 3 or 4 examples that I wanted to give, and I saw that the chair of the committee himself ran us through as a House some of those unconstitutional provisions, and this is what led to the conclusion by the committee that we as a House cannot abide by some of these proposals. But I want to challenge the committee that after we reject this bill, I think one of the problems we allow ourselves to get into, Honorable Speaker, is to allow such bills to originate from the National Assembly. How do they beat us to originating such legislation? In the historical relationship between these two houses, the Senate has always complained of being the one that is being sidelined, the one that is being undermined at every turn. Then if we are going to have legislation to repair that relationship, we as the wearer of the shoe, honestly, Honorable Chair, should be the ones originating the legislation that we believe will cure this particular problem. And I know that a bill originating from this House to cure this relationship would be far much purer, because we are motivated in this House by the desire to see these constitutional institutions working and nothing else. I would trust this House to prescribe the medicine to this problem than any other place. So, Honorable Chair, even as we argue for the rejection of this bill, even as we reject this bill, I would very much challenge the members of the JLAC committee to, with haste, put out our own version of a bill to guide the relationships between these two houses. It's unfortunate that the leader of majority is not in the House with us today. Honorable Cheruyot is somebody who has walked this journey of the relationship of these two houses, including the interpretation of Article 110, the matter that is before the Supreme Court, and what needs to be done. And he has cautioned us that during debate of this matter, we should not make it as if the entire National Assembly is in fact at odds with the Senate. And the best example, Honorable Speaker, was during the debate on the Division of Revenue Bill that was passed by this House, where it was clear that, in fact, it is only a small section of members of the National Assembly who think that everything should be perceived through the lenses of conflict between these two houses. But a vast majority of the members of the National Assembly, and you will see this demonstrated, Honorable Speaker, when we go to mediation over the Division of Revenue Bill, there are people who actually believe in devolution and making sure that these institutions of devolution, including the Senate, work. Honorable Speaker, as you yourself or the chair of the committee rightfully pointed out, if you look at a provision such as the one that you referred to, or the chair referred to, relating to when a dispute can be said to have arisen or when it needs to be dealt with in accordance to Article 110(3). Honorable Speaker, Section 6 of that bill wants to rewrite Article 110(3) of the Constitution, because the wording of Article 110(3), and I have my copy of the Constitution here, presupposes that any dispute will be dealt with prior to any of the bills being introduced in any or either of the houses. But what Section 6 of the bill proposes to do is to rewrite that to mean a bill can actually go before the House and undergo the first reading, but then to move the time frame, at which point we can raise objection to that bill or declare a dispute under Article 110.3 to just before the second reading of the bill. Because, Mr. Speaker, the resolution of those questions needs to happen jointly and in the language of the Constitution under Article 110.3 before either House considers a bill. Now, I don't know what the National Assembly defines consideration as, or when consideration of a bill begins. But surely, Honorable Speaker, by the time you are introducing a bill at the first reading, that is consideration of the bill, and all matters must have been resolved before that is done. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, you yourself have made reference, and honorable colleagues who have spoken before me, to the provisions of Section 19.6 of the bill on the question of public participation. Again, Honorable Speaker, under Article 118 of the Constitution on public access and participation, there is a requirement, Honorable Speaker, that every single piece of legislation that is being considered by either House go through public participation. In fact, my argument, Honorable Speaker, is it doesn't matter where this bill originates. If a bill is introduced into this House from the National Assembly, my thinking is that as far as the Senate is concerned, as far as the Senate as a legislative body is concerned, that is the first time we are interacting with that bill, and therefore a key component of our consideration and passage of that bill is public participation, so that we as a House can never have an excuse to abdicate that responsibility and go through a bill or any proposal before this House without subjecting it to the constitutional requirement of public participation. When Senator Maanzo was speaking, he made reference to the housing bill that was introduced from the National Assembly as well. And, Honorable Speaker, the Hansard will bear me witness that we in the minority...
Senator Sifuna, just hold. Senator Karen, the chair earlier on cautioned you against what you're doing. You're out of order. Proceed, Senator Sifuna.
Honorable Speaker, I was saying that if you look at the Hansard, we in the minority, during debate on the housing bill, were of the opinion that, in fact, because housing is a devolved function, because it is a legislative mandate of this House to deal with questions of housing, we needed to subject that bill to our own independent public participation to find out the views of Kenyans, Honorable Speaker. And the word of caution, of course, results from the fact that previously we have seen very shambolic so-called public participations before the National Assembly. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, one of our biggest shame as a nation was where public participation is conducted on a bill before the National Assembly, specifically the Finance Bill of 2023. 99% of the people appear before the committee, relevant committee, and oppose the provisions of that bill. And in the end, all of those proposals, all of those suggestions from ordinary Kenyans, from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, from civil society, from all those quarters,